Trainer's Corner, Episode 1, I am joined by professional Greyhound trainer Rosie Tungatt. With Oxford now rapidly approaching, in the recent weeks I caught up with professional Greyhound trainer Rosie Tungatt to see what her plans were for the future, how she has found training so far, and her new ventures at the newly opened Oxford Stadium.
Off all my life, on and off, but I really intensely, well, we done a few litters here, and I got quite involved there when we had the litters, sort of behind the scenes of it all. I never really used to go racing a lot, because I just used to prefer being in the kennels with the dogs. I used to sleep in there at night and things like that, so I always stayed behind the scenes. And then about 2 years ago, I started going racing more and more. Like, I went to a few odd races, like the big races when we was in the Oaks, and things like that. And when my bitch won her first race, one that won the Oaks. So it's like, I've done a few big races, but I've done more behind the scenes at home with the dogs.
Got a particular memory that ignites a backlog?
Sort of. I mean, it was more my memory than my mum and dad's memory. But when I took over, I had this dog, Stoke Deli Ali. He could not run to save his life. Like, he just had so many injuries, so many issues. It was this close to being finished. So I thought, just perceive him, like, keep working on him, give him time, give him time. And then when he won his first race with me, I was on my knees crying. It was only I think it was A6, A5, A6, but it was just so nice to see him get to that point. And I think, yeah, that was sort of my moment where I thought, right, this is what I'm really happy doing now. This is 2JD. Oh, she's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. I mean, she couldn't win an A5 at Henlow. She was really struggling. And then I took her for a trial round Hove, a bit further distance. And yeah, she's flying. I mean, I've got a bitch who's 2 years old, who's A1 at Henlow, and she's doing better times than her. So it's nice because she's 4 years old, she's knocking on a bit, but she had a lot of time off. I mean, in the time I've had her, I've probably had her off about 3-4 months. Doesn't act it, she doesn't look it, she's really well for herself, and she keeps herself so tight in the garden. She's always running around.
How's Georgie doing?
Georgie's doing phenomenal. I mean, I got them January, Georgie and Norman, because I already had Teapot Polly and he's their brother. Yeah. So the other two came up for sale. I thought, oh, keep them together. So I bought Georgie and Norman, and they haven't run a race yet because they're too. I don't think they'd handle Henlow. I don't think they'd like the track. They like quite a big, wide track, and they've done really well times at Toaster, and they've done really well times at Hove, but predominantly they're sprinting dogs, like shorter distance dogs, and they've done really well over 500. They quite shocked me, to be fair. But no, they as soon as they start running, I'll know more. But at the minute, just I'm going off trials, and they seem to be doing well enough in trials. I'd
imagine it's owned by Kevin Boothby, Savannah Michelle.
Yeah, she's doing really well. She's coming back. I mean, when they bought her for the Henlow Maiden Derby, and she's never been able to really stay the 500, 550. She's doing shorter distance now. She seems to be doing well with it, but she's... and just watching them change. And when you get new dogs in your kennels, watching their personalities come through and just bonding with them and letting them work with you more than anything. And it's just nice when they get that bond and they get that trust, and you can just see the change in their personalities. And then when it just shows, and they're running, because then they're running for you. They're not running for the hair, they're running for you.
Taking a couple of years out to do certain other opportunities, and what were they exactly?
I was a chef from school. I left school and become a chef for about 2.5 years. And then I went somewhere else to be a chef for about another year, and then I went into caring for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I started working on the airplanes as cabin crew, which was good, but it's just not for me. Vitamins, minerals, veg, everything, and it's the same for dogs.
Yeah, and it definitely shows in the coat, both through grooming and through a good feed. Part of the fat that gets put on as muscle will eventually show It's like you can tell how good a dog is in its coat and how healthy they are based on their pin bones at the back.
Starting point. I mean, Kevin's really good, really good. He does look after his staff. He's very straightforward, and it is a good track. Like, it was a really good track years ago. It had a lot of atmosphere, and then COVID hit, and there was just no one going there, and it got really hard because it was just like trainers. And then they slowly started letting owners back in, but because Henlow's such a like small track, it doesn't get enough sort of spectators in there. And where just after COVID, it was a lot of early morning meetings. Some of the meetings were starting at 8:30. So it's like, who wants to be there at 8:30 in the morning watching racing? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I trialled in Tuesday. It's a phenomenal track. It is really good. Like, there's a few like things that need doing. Like with anything, when it first starts up, you've still got to finish everything off. But the main things are done, like the kennels, the track, all the safety points are covered. There's loads of sand on there. It's brilliant. The traps are brilliant. It's a nice wide gallop, and it's coming on amazingly, and it flows really well. I mean, Tuesday there was no hiccups. Wednesday, I'm sure there was no hiccups from what I've been told. The times are showing really well. So yeah, it's got a lot of potential, and it's going to be really good. 100%. I love breeding.
Pups running around.
Oh, I love it. They just, when they're so small and you watch their personalities come through, and when they start fighting with each other, and then the best ones when they start escaping, when they get to about 9 to 12 weeks and they start really like getting to know the world, and they think, oh, what can I get out of next? And they get out of like little gaps, and then you'll find one under the bed, or you'll find one in the other side of the kennel, and it's just brilliant watching them like really come alive. I love pups. Oh, you can't beat pups.
This next question was the most important to me, as it would highlight how Rosie felt after training for at least 1.5 years now, as well as gaining experience through her younger years, as to what she really needed as a trainer to both progress and improve her kennel, and what is to also make the sport a lot more fairer and more open for herself as well as other trainers. Everybody's got different opinions, but this is what Rosie had to say.
Transparency with like the racing office and trainers, because if you've got a good racing manager that isn't like is a non-biased racing manager who can really see everything from the outside, because I always say, look into the goldfish bowl, don't swim around it, look in it. And you need a racing manager who can sort of make it fair for everyone. Like, no one should be the favourite, no one should get missed out, and it's just little things like that. Like, there's nothing worse than when you hear small trainers getting denied their chance because the bigger trainers want the opportunities, and it's just, you need a fair racing manager who will be equal to everyone. No one gets outgraded, no one's missing out on their chance. Like, you just need the fairness and the transparency with the managers and the trainers, because it's just a select few trainers that get their names out there in the big races, or get picked and get their seeding and things like that. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. As long as you've got a good racing manager, you'll be fine.
Just to quickly mention before we finish up, a very big thank you to Rosie, who had kindly come on to my show and allowed me to interview her. She handled herself very well. But other than that, as you can see just before that, she has 6 runners lined up in total at Oxford on Saturday, both in graded and open race company. So if you saw any of the Greyhounds on today's video, keep an eye out for them, because Rosie has got some very, very good Greyhounds in her hands. But other than that, I wish Rosie all the best in her training career. We will definitely keep in touch. But other than that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, check out Rosie if you are down at Oxford. and we'll see you very, very soon.